Welcome to One Life, the podcast where we embrace the journey of living fully and intentionally in every area of life. My name is Matt Farnham, and while I don't have it all figured out, I'm walking this journey with you, convinced we don't have to choose between a thriving career and thriving relationships, health, and purpose. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And together we'll explore how to create work-life harmony, reject the lies of comparison, steward our gifts, and embrace the life God desires for all of us. Welcome to One Life. Well, welcome back to another episode of the One Life podcast. I'm your host, Matt Farnham. I want to say thank you for listening and being a part of our One Life community. Today, I have a special friend as a guest today. You can see him right here, Tom Tezak. Thanks for being here, bro.
My pleasure, man.
Man, I knew when we were launching this podcast, I knew you were going to be on here. You were on the very short list of the first people I was going to be calling. So glad you're here, bro.
So excited.
Hey, just to kind of kick us off, I want to give you more of a formal introduction just to honor you and the career that you've had. And by the way, I'm titling this episode, A Story of Reinvention, Resilience, and Designing a Life You Love. What you guys are going to hear through this conversation with Tom is he really does exemplify life by design. We're going to unpack some of that today. But just a formal introduction, Tom is a top 1% Maui realtor, luxury real estate coach, and multi-market entrepreneur. As the leader of the Lifestyle Maui team at Hawaii Life, former broker owner of the Wailea Realty, and a seasoned coach with Tom Ferry, Tom blends deep local expertise with a global network of elite real estate connections. Whether he's closing high-end deals in Maui or building out ventures in other parts of the country, Tom is all about helping clients design their perfect lifestyle. Tom's been married to Lori 35 years, and then two beautiful daughters, Mackenzie and Zoe, 31 and 26. But all that's great, Tom, but you're on here, man, because you're a great dear friend of mine. You're an amazing human. And I was telling you before we started recording, just such an encouragement to me, bro. I mean, we've been friends for 8 years now, I think. And you've been one of those just life-giving friends to me for 8 years. So I just honor you and thank you for being here.
And Matt, the feeling is mutual, man. You've always been there. I've just, since the first moment I think we chatted, it's just been, I like this guy. He is such a solid person. So that's been great. So
awesome, dude. Well, hey, one thing I love to ask our guests when I kick off these conversations is joy. What's bringing you joy in your life right now?
You know, it's transitioning through this next journey in my life, and we may get to it or not, but I always like to say I'm a 10-year guy, and I'm on my fourth set of 10 years, and it's been such a great journey. We're building a house, second home in Tennessee, and there's so many things that bring joy to my life, but this has been just fun for me. So it's on the water. I've been dreaming about having a lake house where I can have my boat in my backyard, and watching it now go up after a couple years. It's been a year and a half of a journey so far. So it's been really, really fun and excited to see it all happen. So that's been joyful for me.
Expensive too, but that's awesome though. You got a guy living on Maui who wants to be on a lake in Tennessee, so that's kind of funny.
It's been a crazy journey, but we'll save that story for another day.
Nice. Well, we talked about 8 years ago our first connection, so I'm sure you remember that first conversation. I was headed to Maui, hadn't been anywhere in Hawaii yet, and my wife and I just wanted an amazing vacation, so I reached out to our shared ecosystem through Tom Ferry Coaching and ended up connecting with this guy, Tom, and says, hey, I can give you some tips and tricks. But man, you spent probably an hour or 90 minutes on the phone with me, just literally mapping out a dream vacation for Leslie and I. And I've always been grateful for that. But I think this tees up a really good conversation because it kind of defines a big part of how you do business, your philosophy in business. But why would you spend an hour and a half with a complete stranger that you've never met and tell me so much about a vacation? You're not getting paid for that.
Well, first of all, life is not about getting paid.
Right.
I got paid in so many other ways by getting to be able to know you and to be able to hang out with you. So it's, I think if we look at life as the dollar and always chasing the dollar, we're in the wrong space. And it's just never been for me. I love where I live. Maui is the most amazing place in the world. And it's just so much fun to share it with people. Part of my business is that I talk to people on the phone, connect with them, and then get them excited to buy real estate on Maui. And so it was just sort of a natural thing for me to be able to share Maui because I grew up in Joliet, Illinois, the middle of blue collar USA, and it was an amazing place, just outside of Chicago. but it's not Maui. And so whenever people come here, and they always or are coming here and they ask questions, I just love to share what a beautiful, beautiful place this is and all the things we've enjoyed being here for, I think it's been 25 years now that I've been here. And so I just never ever really want to live my life around chasing the dollar. Now I do, and I'm guilty of it. And there's things I do that it's all about the dollar, but I try not to make that happen.
Yeah. And I've seen that with you. And what's cool is just a lesson 101 in business is you always lead with value, right? Any entrepreneur should never expect to get paid without first delivering value to the marketplace or to others. And that's how our relationship started. But then fast forward 8 years, man, we've been on each other's podcasts. We've swapped referrals. We have been compensated, both of us, on shared relationships. We've led events together, spoken at each other's events. I mean, it's been a very fruitful relationship outside of the friendship, but even in the business side. So you never know what's going to flesh out through a new relationship. But what that leads though is you're known for being kind of the connector and relationship guy. With a lot of the shared relationships you and I have, what do you value most about the relationships that you've built in this industry, in the real estate space specifically?
You know what I love is, I have friends here where I live that aren't in the real estate business, and through my life, I have not a lot, but I have some. But I can't go and talk to them about the deal I just had or this great success I had because it just becomes braggadocious or boastful, and that's not who I am. But I love the community of realtors that are in the Tom Ferry ecosystem, and we're in both in several ecosystems. But when we get in these ecosystems, when people are really focused on their trade, their business, you can share wins, you can share successes with them, and that's been such a really amazing opportunity to get to know these people on a different level. And I know my wife sometimes says, how can they be such good friends? You only see them twice a year. It's like, I don't know, but they are. And it's because there's this real true connection with the agents in the ecosystem. So if somebody's listening to this, what I would say, and if you're just flying solo by yourself or you're just in an office where you're working with your competitors around you, get out of that space. Go to a NAR convention. Go to any convention. Go to be part of something else where you can go and get some different connections and get some insight and feedback. So that would be one of the things I would say is so valuable. And I just started doing that when we met probably a year before that, 8 or 9 years earlier. And I was super shy, and I truly was. I still don't. When I walk into a room, if it's not real estate, I'm super quiet. I don't meet people, but that has given me this. The real estate space has given me the opportunity to be a connector, which 10 years ago there was no way I would ever be called a connector.
I haven't seen the shy version of Tom yet.
Well,
But real
he's
estate, Leslie, same thing. It's like, it's interesting. I was telling her, I don't know how long ago, but it's like, man, honey, it's crazy that like literally my best friends in my life are now in different cities all over the country, but there's just a deeper level of connection. And it's not even real estate, it's entrepreneur. Like it's just that different, you're just a different breed of people when you own your own business, right? So it's great to have those relationships. Hey, I want to lean into one of my favorite things to talk about on this show, which is marriage. Real estate, Tom, as you know, is notorious for burning through marriages. I've said it before on this podcast, but the divorce rate is actually quite a bit higher in the real estate space than average for obvious reasons. But you and Lori just hit 35 years in marriage.
woo, woo.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So praise the Lord for that. And you celebrated big. So how did you guys celebrate? And then the second question I have for you is what has protected your marriage through it's not all like gravy, right? Real estate has ups and downs. We'll get into some of that here probably in a few minutes later. But how'd you celebrate? Number one, that's fun. And then what do you think's protected that through the hard seasons?
So we celebrated. We celebrated in Tuscany. I had myself and my wife, my two adult daughters. I decided I wanted to do this on a vineyard. We were there a couple years ago, and I thought, oh, wouldn't this be beautiful? My wife looked at me and said, yeah, sure. And so I just woke up one day. It's like, today's the day I'm going to make the plan. And it was a year, 14 months before our 35th sort of ish wedding anniversary. And I started doing it, and I sent an email out to a bunch of the people that were in our wedding and a bunch of people. Well, it turns out we had 19 people at our vow renewal, including my wife and I. and everybody converged on this little tiny Tuscany castle, and we reserved most of the rooms. And I've got a pastor who I just absolutely adore. He's an amazing guy, and his wife. Um, and I flew them out so that they could do the vow renewal because they know us really, really well. And it was such an epic trip. We went with my daughters. We met them early. We spent some time cruising around Italy, and then we did the vow renewal. And we had all these people there. And after 4 days, it's like, okay, we got to go because this is way too much energy. But it was so cool. So we did that, and we had a blast.
And we were thankful to be invited, and we're so bummed Leslie and I couldn't be there, but I was so happy for you guys.
Um, and then how do we survive? Oof, boy, I think it's truly a commitment. It is the marriage, for those of you who are married, who've been married for a long time, it is not easy. It is, you've got to acquiesce sometimes. You've got to admit you're wrong sometimes. You've got to think you're right and just be okay with not having to scream, "Hey, I'm right." And that all those things I've done wrong. I mean, I don't mean to. And I think it's really a trust issue with your partner, trying to get through that. Lori has been an amazing leader inside of the house. She has incredible faith, far, far. She's a faith warrior. I am not very good in my faith, but she comes alongside of me to sort of pull me into that. But there's been struggles. I mean, there's and like every marriage, I mean, there's struggles. For us, it was financial struggles years ago when we were close to destruction, and um, I think it was just trying to really realize that there's a bigger, greater thing out there than just me, just her. It's us, God, and bringing it all together, and believing in us, in our family, and being able to make sure that we can work together. I don't know if I shared with you a little bit earlier about in 2000, I think it was 2009 or 10, when the market was in the tank. I don't know if you want to go down that road or not, but
Yeah, we're going to get there in a minute for
okay.
sure. I think that's a
Well, I think
really
we'll save that then for a minute. But I think it's just really trusting in each other, and knowing that we each have our lane as part of raising our family. I always tell my wife, it's like, you are in. My wife didn't work. I worked. He said, "You're in charge behind the front door, and I'm in charge outside the front door." And we had that where there was a decision about business, about money. That was something I took care of. But man, as soon as I walked through the front door, I was no longer in charge, and I was so okay with that. She made me the most amazing dad. I think I'm an amazing dad, but it was because of her, not because of me. I'd come home and want to sit down and just like veg out, and she'd go, "Okay, go read the kids' books. Hey, go talk to your daughters. Go spend some time with them." And I I thank her every time I can because she's made me the dad I am, and I just so much appreciate that, making me cry. Uh,
that's beautiful, man. I love that.
but yeah,
Yeah,
so I think it's a teamwork, right?
yeah, it's interesting because you talk to different couples, and some of them very much have the stay in your lane kind of. I own this, you own this, right? And there's great clarity. And you have other couples. We have mutual friends, Doug and Joan, and they're more like constantly just going on the other side of the boundary, just pinging off each other. And it's just there's no right way to do it. But you do have to find what works for you and your partner, and then stay committed to that. And so that's awesome. You
And let
guys
me
have
say
done
that
that.
it's not like we don't talk about the other lanes. We communicate between us, but at the end of the day, if my wife said when came to do something with the kids, she had the commanding voice in it, and I respected that because she was way better at it than I. So
No, that's great. So specifically, there are seasons in real estate where, we're working 12, 14, 16-hour days. I know you've been there. It's part of your story. Specifically in those seasons, were there certain guardrails where you guys had some type of mutual understanding that she was able to kind of weather that storm with you?
so I think I was a realtor for 10 years in Joliet, Illinois, doing amazing, crushing it. One of the top agents in my marketplace, and basically one day we just woke up and it's like, I don't want to be here anymore. We don't want to wake up here anymore. I had a past life. I was a deputy coroner and a funeral director and a retail store owner. So the retail store had sort of tied me to Joliet, but I decided to close that down. It was an Army surplus store. I closed it down. It was a wonderful experience. But after that, I'm doing real estate at the same time. And that past experience as a deputy coroner, picking up people who came to untimely deaths, really sort of started to settle with me. And literally woke up one day. It's like, I don't want to wake up in Joliet, Illinois anymore. Not that it's a bad place. It's just there's so many other places out there. And we had been traveling to Maui from we got on our honeymoon, and then we were making our third set of reservations in 1 year, 8 years after we got married. And that was when the moment was, I don't want to wake up here anymore. So we made the decision then, kind of, to move to Maui. And that took us about 18 months. We had a baby in between. My father passed away. So there's a lot of moving parts. But we just finally packed our bags and just off we went, and then got to Maui. Well, when I got to Maui, we knew no one, literally nobody. My wife had met a lady at the nature center when she was dropping off a turtle, because she was dropping off turtles too, and she was moving to Maui. As weird as that is.
From the same town in Illinois?
From the same town in Illinois. Both dropping off turtles, both moving to Maui. So you can't make stuff like that up. Anyway, so it was the only person we knew here. So we get here, and I came here, I interviewed, I picked a brokerage. I went home, I came back a month later, the broker forgot he hired me. And it's like, oh, well, sit over there. And so I never told my wife that story for years, because she would have freaked out. But what I did is I started working, and the drill in Maui was work open house 7 days a week. So after we got our daughter situated in school, I went on to start working, and I worked for 17 months straight, 29 out of 30 days, 29 out of 30 days a month, anywhere from 5 to 7 hours working open house. I'd get home, hang out with the kids for 2 to 3 hours, and then after they went to bed, I'd work another 4 hours doing marketing, and then did that for 17 months. But through that journey, I built what became out to be a really amazing business. So, but my wife knew. She said, "Hey, it's like I've got to do this." I got on the plane with 18 open transactions, and we had some money coming in, but I was bound and determined that I was going to be successful. And I think it was that vision, and my wife sharing that vision with me, knowing, okay, you got to get up. She supported me whenever anything was happening with the kids. Because I was a realtor, I was working open house. I always make arrangements to be at any event, soccer games, stuff like that. But I was committed to what I was doing and learning the business, and creating a database that was just crazy huge. So
That's amazing. And I think the takeaway there for our listeners is, we talk a lot on this podcast or One Life community around marriages and harmony between, the home life and business and all that. But that doesn't ever excuse the fact that there's going to be seasons of life where you have to just grind it out. But the trick is you communicated that very clearly, and you and Lori were on the same page with that. And a lot of times it's the entrepreneur just doing it without getting the enrolling or getting the buy-in of the partner, but it's a family decision, right? So I think you really are, Tom, from my perspective, kind of a masterclass of designing the life you want. But it takes both of you buying into it and communicating. And but before we move on past the move to Maui, the coroner's background and the Army surplus, like that is a very unique path. A lot of us have unique stories to get to real estate, but that might be one of the more unique ones. What would you say were some maybe surprising applications that you got from those two careers or jobs that transferred into real estate?
so I think let's start with the Army surplus store, because that's easy. When I never worked in a retail business, and I opened an Army surplus store because I saw a niche and a void in where I grew up, for that product. But my takeaway from that was perceived value, right? And the perceived value is I could buy something for $1 and sell it for $7 because the consumer had this perceived value. And the way I translate that into real estate is, wow, what an opportunity for me to walk up to a house, and just because it's maybe 200 square feet smaller, but yet it's got this amazing view or this amazing location or the right spot in the neighborhood, that perceived value created me it gave me the ability to say, okay, this house is worth more than the one down the street that's the same floor plan and the same square footage, and be able to convey that to the buyers and help the seller to get more money. And I think that really was the takeaway, was being able to step back and look at perceived value as opposed to just a hard data value from a square foot price kind of thing. So that would be the big takeaway in there for me, and knowing that had a good eye for that.
Which is super important, probably much more relevant to Maui than maybe Illinois real estate, right? Because there's way more subjective value probably for a Maui property than just a tract home in a neighborhood.
Yes, there is, but I still think in a home in a neighborhood, it's is it on the entry street where the headlights shine into the house? Is it tucked away in the corner? Is it in the neighborhood where none of the cars drive by it because it's in the so there's still I think there's still ways to perceive or create more value or express more value than just it's this floor plan and it's this many square feet. So I think it goes all the way. But yes, in Maui, when you have a view to contend with, that trumps everything. So I agree with that to a degree.
So what about the coroner's office? Tell us about how does that transfer to real estate? That's probably
Well,
the most out there transition.
the coroner's office was seriously probably the way that really translates was communication. As part of my job as a deputy coroner, there was a few different aspects. One of the things would be I was on call 24/7. We'd get a day on, a day on backup, and a day off. But when I would get called, it could be 2 o'clock in the morning. I had to get up, get dressed, and go. Um, Part of the process, we would go to the scene. I would do a scene assessment. We would take and remove the body remains, and I would take them to the facility that we had. But also part of my job was to make the notification of death to the immediate family, and that's the thing in life that I look back on. And I think every 21-year-old should be a deputy coroner for a year in their life, because you do things, you behave in a way that is much different, because I came to realize life is precious, make it count. It was one of my taglines. It truly is, because we never know. Somebody could do something stupid and it could end up in our demise, and we don't have a guarantee. So every day I am prepared to die. I don't mean to be weird, but I just want to live every day as best as I can, because there's no guarantees. I could have a heart attack. I could hit by a car. I could, fall off a staircase, and all kinds of things. So when I would go to these scenes and I would have to communicate with, the families, and I would walk up with a deputy, a uniformed deputy, and I would knock on the door and I would have to introduce myself and then say, can I come in and share with them that someone near and dear to them passed away. For me, communication and being able to learn how to do that, when I have to go to a client and say, hey, your deal fell apart, it's not a big deal. This is not life or death. And so it gave me that confidence to be able to have that conversation. With the hard conversations in real estate are pretty easy compared to the conversations that I've had to have in my life. So I think that, in simple terms, because so many agents are afraid to go to the client and say what they need to say, because it's like, oh, how am I going to do? What am I going to say? Yeah, I still have struggles with it sometimes, but I know that I've had the really, really hard conversations.
Different perspective, man. Especially for a 21 at that age to have that type of weight or responsibility, man. That'll make you grow up real fast. Talk about sober-minded conversations, right?
And I was 23 when I first started being a coroner, but still, it's still just crazy. I just, and it really gives you a perspective on life that it is so, there is it changes in a second. So just live it the best you can, and I mean, and don't be stupid. I mean, I saw some things in my career as a deputy coroner. In it, sometimes you think, oh well, they were stupid. They got in a car accident. They were drinking. Those kind of things where you can understand. But there's other cases that I was on. It was like, wow, that could have been me. I could have done that. I mean, it's, a guy driving down the road. It's raining. He's got a ladder on his truck. He's a worker guy. Ladder blows off his truck. He pulls off the side of the road. He's standing in a ditch. It's raining. There's wet. He picks the ladder up. It hits two electrical wires above his head, and he kills him. anybody, not to be a downer here, but just want people to think it's so possible that, in my life, I always look up now for a lot of reasons.
But it is very relevant to this show and this conversation, because the whole idea of being have the harmony and work is be present when we have time to be with our spouse and our families or our community or whatever it is, because we we spend so much of our life working and trying to build wealth, but at the end of the day we're all going to just wish we had more of those uninterrupted focused times with the ones we love most, and we don't know how many of those days we have left, to your point. It's extremely
Well,
relevant.
I've listened to all your podcasts, I think all of them, and that is one of the things that I hear over and over again from your guests is,
Mhm.
you know what, all the money in the world doesn't make a difference when you're dying in bed. So
Yeah. Nope. One of my favorite quotes is no other success can compensate for failure on the home. So that's the first priority. So hey, I want to lean into something you brought it up a minute ago, but you did go through a hard season. You even told me in your words, quote unquote, my life was a wreck, and you were referring to 2009, and there was some serious weight that you were dealing with in your marriage relationship, with your finances. So unpack that for me just for a moment. And then what would you say out of that God or life circumstances, what did you learn while you're kind of in that valley?
so yeah, so in 2000, so I've been a realtor since 1990, moved to Maui in 2000. 2005, I was crushing it. I was making so much money. I couldn't even imagine that I could ever make this much money. 2006 rolls around, it starts getting a little bit wiggy. I'm still making the money. I am now living at a lifestyle of making $35 million in sales, $40 million in sales. Just huge. And it went from that to the subprime market crashed and went to doing almost no business. And by 2009, when everything was unraveling, at that point, I was broke. I had all of this debt that I had created because I was living large and hadn't experienced this kind of cycle before. And at that point, I was looking at bankruptcy attorneys. Not all, several of the friends around me were going bankrupt. I was raised by my dad, who was very old school. It's like, we don't go bankrupt. We're responsible for our stuff, what we do. And so it was a personal commitment that I didn't want to go bankrupt because it just wasn't, it wasn't okay. And it wasn't honorable in my mind for me. Um, and I know it was a great solution for some people, but for me, it wasn't an option. And then with that being really financially struggling, then at inside the house, my my wife was used to spending, doing buying whatever she wanted, and I'm trying to reel that in, and it created a lot of stress inside the house. At the point where it's like divorce was flying, not that we went got attorneys, but that we were saying, well, we should get divorced, and we have two little kids that we're trying to raise, and it was devastating for our lives. And I I don't know what it was, what happened, but I was just torn up, and again a wreck. And one day I just came home, and I was working a ton because I needed to figure out how to make some money. But I came home one day, and we had been married at this point 19 years. And I came home, looked at my wife, I said, honey, and I was wiped out. I said, honey, we can't let one bad year ruin 18 amazing years. We need to figure this out. And it was that day, that we came together, and we started being on the same page because we hadn't been. We were at odds. We were just everything was a problem. And at that moment, my wife and I joined into the space and said, okay, how do we make this work? I said, this is my plan. This is what we need to do. I need to work every day. And so I went out and worked again, back to that first 17 months. I went out and worked every day. There was me and a buddy of mine who'd moved to Maui from Joliet, and we were out working open house literally from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, meeting all of these people. There was nothing was selling. Nothing was selling. The market was in the tank. You couldn't get a loan. Um, but what was happening was I was meeting so many buyers that were out there waiting for the market to turn. And it was like insane in 2010 as I muddled through making, I think I did $8 million in sales, which is For some people, they might say that's a lot, but when you were just done 40 million,
Hmm.
it wasn't enough to pay my bills. But what happened was I worked every day, 7 days a week. So like the kind of market we're in right now is similar. And by going through this drill of working every day, all of a sudden when the market started to turn, all of the other agents in my marketplace were sitting there saying, the market sucks, the market sucks, there's no business, there's no business. And me and my buddy are out there like shooting fish in a barrel selling real estate because we had built up this database of buyers that were
Hmm.
waiting. And
Hmm.
then when the market was right, when the product hit the market that they wanted, we were going out there and just selling. And in 2011, I think I did $35 million dollars in sales. And it made me realize that we need to see the opportunities in the spaces that most of the other agents don't. We need to be in the places, and sometimes it's patience and time. But because I was out there creating the opportunities that I didn't realize it at that time. I was just trying to find the next deal. But what had happened was I'd found a lot of next deals. It was just they were going to take 6 to 12 months before they'd come to fruition. And then being able to see the market turn, we knew the market was re-energizing. So we were able to have those conversations with the clients that all the other agents were saying the market sucks. And me and my buddy are saying, the market's amazing. It is the time to buy right now.
Hmm.
And that changed everything. Um, which the journey with that, which I just, I've looked back and assessed it, and that was in 2011 when I was doing amazing. I'm driving a brand new Porsche. Everybody's looking at me like, "How is this happening? How is your business so strong?" Well, there was a small boutique company that was struggling in our marketplace. They had a great name, great reputation, but they had 11. I think they had 11 agents, and I was doing more in business than the entire company in October of 2011. They came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in partnering with us and buying his?" It was a gentleman, and he wanted to buy his mom out of the business, and and I joined with them. And everybody, all of my buddies in the business said, "What are you doing? The company is going out of business." It's like, it's a great brand. The consumers believe in the brand. They don't know the inner workings of what's happening in the real estate business. And so that gave me because I did all of the hard work, it gave me the opportunity to join that company, become a part owner with my business partner, Brad MacArthur. And we took the company and then built it into an amazing little boutique brokerage in Maui, and then 10 years later 11 years, sold it. So that's, I don't know if that's in your stuff, but it's because of that 2009, working hard in 2010, the business I created in 2011, having somebody notice me and say, we want you to be part of our company because you're doing something different. And so, it was all of those things work together.
Yeah. No, it's such a good lesson in, I mean, persistence, resilience, perseverance, all those things. But there's opportunity in every market. Hopefully, anybody listening to this is hearing that from you. And some things like in 2025 right now, when we're recording this, Tom, it's the end of 2025, but we're kind of on our second or third year of a pretty what feels like stagnant real estate market. But what I'm trying to tell agents is you don't even realize you're gaining market share every day by just staying in the business and staying in it, right? In the trenches,
Absolutely.
because there is attrition. You're going to wake up one day and realize, oh, I'm in the end zone. Like I didn't realize. I feel like I'm at the 30 or the 40 or the 50-yard line. No, you're in the end zone when this market does eventually loosen up, and it's going to. So beautiful example that you just laid out. Before we move on, though, I want to just back up just a moment because I saw your emotions. In fact, you got me emotional a little bit when you're talking about that season with Lori specifically. But when you think about the hard part of that season and the beautiful part of that season, coming out of it with the buying the company and just crushing it in business, when you look back at all this, how do you feel like that season shaped the man that you are today? And when I say man, I'm talking husband, I'm talking father, I'm talking leader, friend. What would you say that season? How'd that shape you when you look back today?
It's super humbling, right? I mean, it just, you've got to just step back and just say, it's not, there's more to this than just me. and you need to trust in the people that are around you. In this case, my wife, and we just needed to partner and communicate. I think communication is probably the thing that comes out of it. Is I would come home and just be frustrated and was trying to protect my wife. I was trying to protect her from all of the stress that I was carrying, and that's a mistake. I mean, if your partner, if you need to share that with your partner, they need to be part of it. They need to understand, because when I started to share with my wife, and that was that communication, when it's like, we can't let one bad year ruin it. She didn't understand how desperate I was, and how hard it was. She only knew that the business was bad. She didn't realize that I was struggling to pay bills, and I was, taking money out of the credit cards to pay one credit card with another credit card. And I bought some real estate in the middle of the big time, the boom. I had bought a piece of real estate, and I think I paid, well, about $1.2 million for the property, and it was in the Midwest, and I made some decisions, and the property at that point was worth $250,000. So I lost. That's a whole nother story. We can share with how powerful it was to lose $700,000 in a real estate transaction. She wasn't aware. I guess she wasn't aware of all the stress that I was carrying. Once she became aware of it, she then understood, and then we could partner together. So I think that's, for me, the takeaway is just, you gotta, if you're going to be in this with your partner, you got to be your partner, and you need to be on the same page. And as much as the husband and the the leader of it all, and trying to carry all that burden, it's sometimes you can't.
And I thank you for being vulnerable and transparent, Tom, because that's what this show's all about. Is people that might know you or know about you. I mean, they see the Maui realtor living the dream, right? We see some of the things in your lifestyle. Those of us that are close to you, that oh, maybe even the must be nice type mindset, like. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like there's always a mess in the process. So I'm grateful that you shared all that, because I guarantee there's people listening right now that this is encouraging. So thank you, Tom. So let's move over specifically to selling Maui real estate. You are very vocal and consistent about creating conversations around resort markets.
Yes.
It's something I know you're very passionate about, is education. You have an 85-15 rule that you talk about when it comes to selling resort homes. What does that mean?
So where I learned it was, I worked in Joliet. I moved to Maui, and it's like, oh, I'm a great realtor. I can just do this here. Well, when you move into a resort market, it's not completely. 85% of what we do is the same. It's that 15% of what you do as a resort agent that makes all the difference in the world. And I've seen so many realtors move to Maui that were great realtors from wherever they came from and fail, and they couldn't figure it out. It's because they wanted to do the business the way they did it back in their traditional market. And there's traditional markets where it's just a standard area, Joliet, Illinois, Peoria, Illinois, whatever that is, where people stay in the neighborhoods. There's not a big influx. There's not resort, second home kind of stuff. So in those traditional markets, if you try to come to Maui or Vail or Breckenridge or Palm Desert and think that you're going to do business the same way, you're going to retire there or you're going to transition there, it's not quite the same. And it's that 15%. It's understanding first that you've got to meet a lot of people. You get a lot more no's. When I was selling in Joliet, if somebody called me up and said, Tom, I want to buy a house, that meant they wanted to buy a house, period. In Maui, when I get a call from somebody who says, I want to buy a house, what they don't say is, if the timing is right, if my wife likes it, if I can afford it, if there's a lot more ifs when it comes to resort second home markets. And so agents that are used to the traditional market would burn out. They wouldn't know that you need 10 of those people compared to every one when you're selling property. So I started to do things like be a tour guide. I do what's called a nickel tour. I would engage with people and just want to get them in my car, get them in my space, just to try to connect with them, just to try to bring them in, knowing that odds are they're not going to buy today, but they might buy in 6 months, they might buy in 12 months, and it might be 12 years. I mean, one of my favorite clients, they've become dear friends. I met him in I think it was 2002, and in 2012 or 13, they finally bought a property. They started looking at 600,000 or $400,000 properties. They bought a $4 million property. Crazy thing is, I captured his name and contact information. I put him in my newsletter, and I just kept touching him every couple weeks for 12 years. And I never take anybody out of my newsletter. And then one day I get a text message or an email. It's like, Tom, not sure if you remember me, but this is so and so. Life is better. I want to buy a Wailea Point, which was one of our most expensive properties. And so I call it the gestation period is much longer for a resort agent. And if you're not prepared to build that group, that database, it makes it really hard. And so it's how do you build that database? And then breaking into a resort market, you can't really go knocking on the doors of the waterfront properties because there's nobody there, or the high-end second homes, there's nobody home. So you've got to create and develop a farming strategy that creates value. And so with that, I designed and developed a whole, they call it visual market analysis, where people so if you own a second home, you know where your house is and you know what streets you're on, but you probably don't know the streets around you. Where in the traditional market, you know all the streets around you, because you're living in that space. So we designed this visual market analysis, which was a map with basically boxes and arrows pointing to it. So when the consumers would get this, when they live in San Francisco, they'd get this map and they'd be able to see this marketing piece. It gave them a visual connection to, oh, that's my house, that's the other house. That now I understand that one has a higher location, so it had a better view, so it sold for more money, and it was a tool that really, really worked well. But it's those little things that trying to figure out how do we create value from being afar, and that's that 15% I talk about is just understanding the market a little bit different and how to do that. So if somebody says I want to move into their favorite resort community and they want to become a realtor there, two things I will say is, one, if you're going to go there, be all in and only work there. Most of the times I would see people say, well, I want to get my license in Maui and I want to be a licensed agent in Las Vegas. Don't do it, because what happens is now you can't do a good job in either place because you're not in both places all the time. And your clients don't get the best service. And then you feel like when you're going to your favorite place, you're like, okay, I'm going to go to Maui. And well, now it's work. So why are you doing that? Go enjoy your favorite place and work where you work, or move there and go to work there full time. So
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Totally. I agree with you. I've always scratched my head on how, especially some of the high dollar stuff like on Maui, or other islands for that matter, on how somebody would trust their business to somebody that's not really there all the time and all in. I don't get it, but
Right.
to each their own, right? So for anybody listening that wants to break into a resort market or really figure that game out, that's what Tom is super passionate about and does a lot of coaching and training on. So definitely reach out to him on that. Tom, I want to transition to the coaching side of you. I know you're really passionate about coaching, something you've really kind of leaned into the last number of years, and put a lot more time into. A couple questions when it comes to coaching. First is, I've heard you teach on this idea that you say there's no pot of gold at the end of the real estate rainbow. Um, and in other words, whether you're in real estate or an entrepreneur, we don't have 401ks or retirement plans or residual income unless you're in property management specifically, right? So, what do you see as maybe some of the biggest financial mistakes that agents make, and where should they start today if they don't have a retirement plan? Because most agents don't.
Yeah. That would be, and when I coach, and this is one of the first conversations we have, um, I it is so important to fund a retirement plan. If you're young, I mean, I've got my kids started at 17 with IRA, retirement Roth IRAs. But if you are young, do yourself a favor and start up. Just go to find a financial planner, Edward Jones. I don't care who it is. It doesn't matter at this point. If you don't have one, just go set one up and start a retirement program. And what I tell everybody this when especially the young agents, but middle-aged agents, is that you will remember this conversation. You will remember it, and there's only two ways that it's going to go. When you're 65 years old, you're going to say, damn, I wish I would have listened to Tom and opened a retirement plan, or wow, I'm so glad I listened to Tom and opened the retirement plan. There's no in between. And it is, I didn't start a retirement plan until I was 40 years old. And for that, I'm bummed. I love my parents and my dad, but he wasn't that guy. He didn't give me that knowledge. And so uh, I know that had I started when I was 20, I probably wouldn't be on this podcast, Matt, because I would have been retired 5 years ago. And I think what I want to share with our listeners that are all realtors is next time you go to a caravan or you go to a broker's open or you go to an event where there's all the realtors, I want you to just look around the room and I want you to look at for that agent that's 70 years old and you look at them and think, what are they doing here? Why are they still working? It's because they didn't have a retirement plan and they have to. Now there's some agents that might be listening that say, "Well, I still love doing what I do," and I appreciate that. But there are some agents that are out there that they don't have a way to put food on the table. They're still paying for everything and they don't have any money saved. Guys, don't be that agent. I say that so often. Don't be that. Take and start a retire, even if it's $500. I would encourage you to take some money out of every transaction and it just goes right to your Edward Jones account or your whatever account it is, and putting money there. At the end of the year, when I finally learned the value in this, even when I was in harm's way, I was putting my retirement account on my credit card. And I'm embarrassed to say that, but it became so fundamentally important that I would fund as much as I possibly could to do that. And now life is good. And I built that since 40, and it's not that much, but I feel much more comfortable with that. And the other side of it is invest in what you do. And that is buy real estate, create, you're so much more believable when you say, I own this or I have this. And, because I'm in resort markets, it's very difficult to have great returns. There's some Airbnb opportunities in some markets, but they're heavy management and I don't want to deal with that. So I've got a bunch of real estate, a bunch of doors in 1% markets or 9.9% markets. And that is so important in my mind that now I have this mailbox money coming in and I have 18 doors or 17 doors. Not a lot compared to some, but it's so nice to be able to have invested that money. So instead of I get these big years or these big paychecks, and instead of just, you know, pissing it away on stupid stuff, I'm investing in real estate, and it becomes this forced annuity. And now I'm getting paychecks every week or every month, and that's a nice way to be looking at my retirement as well. So hopefully
And
that.
no, it's great. And to the younger agent you referred to who's listening, what a superpower cheat code do you have when you have all this energy to work all these hours and stockpile all this money? Please do not increase your lifestyle dollar for dollar as your earning goes up. If you would just invest a portion of that at that younger age, then you can live the life that you want to live later, and then work because you want to, not because you have to. I think that was the point you were making with some of the.
And Matt, I did that. I mean, in 2005, six, I was just increasing my lifestyle without investing in anything, and so yeah, definitely do that. And the other path is flips. That's another thing that I've done a lot of flips in my life. And I love to take the ugliest house in a neighborhood and make it beautiful and have the neighbors come up to me and say, gosh, thanks for making our neighborhood nicer. Well, that led to more business because now I did something, I improved their value and they respected me. When I was doing flips, I would always go around to the neighbors and just say, hey, I just want you to know we're doing this. If anything happens, if you see something that's wrong, let me know. Here's my card. This is what I do. And now all of a sudden you become the hero instead of just this, you know, greedy realtor. Now you're doing it to make money and they get that. But what you've done is you've taken this ugly house and you've made it pretty. You've made the neighborhood nicer and you get respect out of that too.
No, that's so good. Um, well, I could keep going. Tom, I knew we were going to have a long podcast because there's just so much that I would love to talk to you about. But I still have a few things I want to get to, so I'm going to keep moving. And we're going to, maybe make these a little bit more kind of rapid fire.
Okay.
Well, but still share what you want to share. Still in the lane of coaching, I know that you are very obviously big on goal setting with your clients. You have a goal setting workbook that you've built. You've had that for years. But recently, you kind of completely rebuilt your workbook, your goals workbook, after listening to the One Life podcast. So
Yes.
that was an honor to hear that. But tell me what inspired kind of the overhaul of your goal setting that you do.
So, can I actually just go back one step about coaching? I just wanted to let people know because of the resort. When I coach, my whole um, coaching roster is only resort agents. Um, and that's one of the things that's really important to me and why I really hyper focus on that space, resort agents, luxury agents. Um, and it makes a difference in that space. So I just wanted to share that because I meant to say that before and we got on a tangent, which I tend to do. So back to the One Life podcast. So I started listening to Matt. Matt reached out right when we was doing this, and we were chatting about it. And so I started listening to a show, and you were on with Treasure, and you were talking about life in balance versus life in harmony, and it really inspired me. And I had oh 7 8 years ago I wrote a goals workbook because I would go to my company. I was running a company. We had 50 agents, and we have an office meeting every Monday morning. And part of my role in my company was culture and leadership, and part of that became this goal setting. And I wrote a goal setting workbook that was much different than the typical goals you get from your brokerage. And it was because I realized that goals are great for real estate, but they're way more important for life. Um, and so I designed and developed this goal setting workbook that incorporated your personal life, your spiritual life, your community life, and your work life, because I felt that as a realtor, we don't show up at 9, check in, and clock out at 5, unless you're a commercial realtor. But that's a whole different story. Uh, but we're in it. We're at a party, we're a realtor. We're at church, we're a realtor. We're at the kids' ball game, we're a realtor. And we're always wearing that hat. We don't ever get to take it off. And it's so hard to, create a life where you have some space. So I thought it was really important for my agents and me to create a goals workbook that incorporated all of these things into one space so that when you're setting, because if you said, I want to do, you know, 300 transactions and this much money, well, then it's really hard to say, but I want to take 15 weeks off of vacation and I want to go on 2 mission trips. It just doesn't all work together if you don't lay it all out on the same workbook. And so when you start to do the goals book with I want to accomplish this in business, I want to accomplish this in personal, I want to accomplish this in spiritual, all of a sudden it forces you to intertwine them so that they work together, as opposed to being these separate avenues that they don't work together, and then you're not successful, and then you're frustrated at the end of the year because you didn't accomplish something, or you had a crappy home life. And and so I wrote this book anyway 7 years ago, and then when I was listening to Matt and Treasure, they were so inspiring on that podcast. I'd encourage you to go back and listen into it. um, I'd encourage you to listen to all of his podcasts because they're all great.
Thanks, Tom.
Um, but I sat down with my goals workbook. I said, this workbook is good, but it could be so much better. And I incorporated this idea of I had holistic was part of my thing, but I had balance was part of it. And it's like, it's not balance, it's harmony. It's really an understanding the difference between, yeah, sometimes you can't say, I'm going to work 5 days and I'm going to take 5 days off. It doesn't work that way. That's balance. It's harmony. It's like, I'm going to work 8 days and take one day off and take one day for my community. That becomes more harmonious because you inside are knowing, hey, this is the way I've planned it. Um, and so this new goals workbook, which I've worked on for after that a couple weeks, and it's come together incredibly beautifully. And I shared it with some of my mentors, and my owner of my company, Matt Beal, Hawaii Life. I sent it to him, and he is not a goals guy. And I intentionally sent it to him because I knew he wasn't a goals, that wasn't his thing. And he came back to me and he goes, Tom, this is really good. He goes, but you're sort of treating it like people's life sucks and here's how to make it better. And he goes, we have amazing lives. And so I rewrote the foreword to the book to start with gratitude. Because you know what? I so many times people will set these goals and they'll miss, and it's, oh, I'm such a loser. It's like, no, man, we are so amazing. We have such great lives. So let's start with that. Let's start with the gratitudes. Let's start with everything that we're so incredibly blessed to have and be in front of us, and then build from there. And I was like, wow, what a great opportunity. Given, Matt and Treasure the balance versus harmony, and then the Matt Beal, owner of my company, who said, "Hey, let's start from a place of gratitude." And I've rewrote this book, and it's I don't know, 17 pages of sort of reading through it to understand, how do you create a spiritual life, how do you create a personal life, how do you create a business, not how do you create it, but thinking about these things and all these little exercises to work on it. And then the back half of it is filling it all out and putting it all on paper, and just trying to make it help you. And it's been amazing. I just redid it, and I've got hundreds and hundreds of views on it. And Matt, I don't know, I think I sent it to you, but you're welcome to share it in your show notes if you'd like.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Cool.
it's been super helpful for me to go through it. And there's lots of little tips and things. It's like, and some things you might read, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, then don't. I don't care. But
Well, the
uh,
important thing is what we track and measure grows. So if the only thing on our scorecard is vanity metrics of transactions and volume, well, that's not telling the whole story of our life. Where's the harmonies found in alignment, right? So one thing that Treasure and I just did as you know, a marriage retreat for high performing realtors and their spouses. And one of the main objectives was, okay, we have vision and values for our businesses, but how about a vision and values for our marriage or for our home life or for these other things that you're referring to? But here's the trick is, where does the vision for my business need to align or submit to the greater vision for my marriage and for my life? And when we can bring alignment in all these different areas together through a tool like you've built, now we're scoring the whole life, right? And what we track and measure grows.
and that is so it, Matt. That is the thing, is that got so frustrated when I would see, these big, brokerages giving these goal sheets out. It's like, wow, this is so just not. They only care about your real estate business, and that was the difference when I was running my company. It's like, guys, I don't care how much business you want to do. I want you to be happy. When I coach my clients, it's like, number one and foremost is, I want you to have a great life. It's not about you sold $10 million or $50 million or you made this. It's, who cares? I mean, if you don't care, then nobody. It doesn't matter, and that's what's so important, is to get aligned. When I'm talking to my friends and my coaching clients, it's like, we need a target, guys. Whatever that target is, if we just get up and, there's an old commercial. I'm going to date myself here, but there was a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, and the guy get up, gotta make the donuts, and every day he had to get up and just make the donuts. There was no vision there, just the vision for the day. And so I just am so, in the goal setting book, I'm huge on long-term vision. What are you going to do in 5 years? What are you going to do in 10? What are you going to do in 15, 20? If you're 20 years old, what are you going to do in 40 years? Where do you want to be? Do you want to have kids? When you have kids, what are you going to do when they graduate from college, or when they graduate from high school? Where is your life going to be? Where are you going to be with your partner? There's so many things that, and if it's just, how many sales are you going to make this year? It so falls short of making the best life you can possibly make.
And
And
that's the vehicle to the destination, maybe. But what's the point of it if we don't know clarity on the destination? So such a good way, Tom, to kind of bring it home, because what you really just did is summed up life by design, which is kind of the whole reason why I wanted you on this, because you've done that, you've exemplified that, and it's beautiful, man.
well,
So
thank you, Ray.
I got a
It's
lot.
the book is Your Life, Your Design. I mean, it's exactly, again, sort of off of the premise of what you guys have done.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's awesome, man. All right, well, let's bring this home, man. So my final question for you is, hopefully everybody listening does see what I am referring to, or what I see in you, Tom, this life by design. So, but not everybody's living there right now. They're feeling stuck. They're feeling burnt out. They're unsure how to design the life that they truly want. What would you maybe leave our audience with, understanding the whole purpose of one life and what this is all about? But the person feeling stuck or burnt out, if they don't know how to design that life, what would you say is just kind of the first step?
phew, if they're burned out, if they're in that dark space, I think you just need to start with some really simple things. Start with taking every morning 15 minutes, a half an hour to just start to really focus on where do I want to be? Where do I want to go? I think it's really important to sit down and sort of just write it all up, put it all on paper, figure out where you're going. What do you want? What's messed up in your life? Why are you struggling? Where are your heartaches? And just put it out there and just start with that and see what can I change? What little thing can I change? Just to start making that little bit of difference. You know, get out and go for a half an hour walk every morning when you start your day. Don't pick up your phone. Don't look at your email. Just go and clear your head. One of my favorite moments in my day, every day, is what was painful for me to start was to get out and do an hour walk. And it's my meditation. It's my time to clear my head. Sometimes I'm working on my walk. Sometimes I'm just walking without listening to anything. Sometimes I'm listening to Matt Farnham on One Life podcast. But it's my hour, and I don't invite my wife to go with me. I don't want any. It's my space, and I think when we start someplace where we can manage it and control everything about it, it's the first step. And then by putting it all on paper and trying to really figure out what do I want to do, what do I want to accomplish, and sometimes the answer is I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not good at this. I need to stop and change a path. That's okay. But if you're miserable, let's figure out why you're miserable. Figure out what those little things are that incrementally you can change to get to the next better place.
Yeah, that's so good, man. What I'm hearing as you're talking is, life is an energy game. So you need to sit back and reflect and put it on paper and figure out what is energizing to you, what does bring life to you, what are you grateful for, and lean into those things because we need to protect our confidence. We can't give away what we don't have, right? And if we don't have our confidence to give to our spouse or our family or our business or our clients, well, what good are we to those around us? So, and I know on those walks you're also scooping up golf balls to ship to Matt in Vegas. So thanks, bro.
That's it. I live in a golf course, or I live inside of a golf. I don't golf, but I like, hey, I got 7,000 golf balls, Matt. I don't know what to do with them.
It's time to ship another box, man.
All right,
Uh,
get you
well,
taken
hey,
care of.
as Tom says, life is precious. Make it count. So, Tom, grateful for you being on this show with me, man. I just love spending time with you. So, thank you for being vulnerable with us, transparent, and just sharing your story with us.
You bet. My pleasure, Matt. You're the best. Love you, man.
Thanks, bro. Feeling is mutual. So, hey, a huge thanks to Tom for being on the show, sharing his insights. I know that this episode is going to resonate with so many people. I'm sure it encouraged you. So, there's probably even somebody on your mind right now that you're thinking, man, they should hear Tom's story. Maybe they're in a position, maybe they're in a career and they're looking to make a transition. Whatever it is, there's so many parts of what Tom shared today that would encourage or resonate with so many others. So share it, help get the word out. Would ask you that you please, rate and review the podcast. Let's get this encouragement out to more people. I really think that we can encourage many, many in our industry. Tom, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to reach out to you?
Oh, text me, 808-280-2055. I know a lot of your guests do Instagram. I'm there, but I am not there very well. I'm really still old school. I love my phone.
All right.
Just give me a call, and Matt, I'm just happy to chat with anybody, whether it's about real estate, whether it's about being in the challenging moments in their life, whether it's about how to open up a retirement account, whatever it is, if they need coaching. I'm just so happy to just be a resource to anybody who needs it. My life is I'm so blessed and fortunate, and I just love to be able to help somebody else get to a happy space.
And listener, that is an authentic offer he just made because that's how Tom and I met 8 years ago, was him just being generous with his time contribution. So if you'd like a copy of the show notes, go to theonelifepodcast.com. So visit theonelifepodcast.com. We'll put the workbook that Tom referred to, the rest of his information, how to find Tom on the show notes. Again, grateful for you listening. Please share this episode, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Tom.
Aloha, everybody.
I hope this episode encouraged you today. Thank you for subscribing, sharing, and rating the podcast. It truly means the world to me. And be sure to visit theonelifepodcast.com to join our community. That's where you'll find updates on virtual meetups, special events, and more. And remember, God created you on purpose for a purpose. You don't have to choose between a life of significance and a thriving business.
You were made for both. This is One Life.